Hey guys, thanks so much for hopping on this live tonight. I uh I hope that you guys are having an amazing evening. Um Let me see, just making sure I'm not missing anybody that might well, I appreciate everybody who's hopping on tonight. Um Daryl, how you doing, man? So folks, my name is Troy. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona. I have lived here my entire life. And what I do is I educate and I empower people to understand what insulin resistance is. Okay. I think it's important for people to know what it is. Um, and I think it's important for people to know that they can improve their health um, without relying on a bunch of medications, which is one of the reasons why I get on here. So I'm super excited. If if you are struggling with your health, this information could change your life. And if there's somebody that you know, that you love, and you care about that needs to hear this, feel free to share this live so that they can hop on, they can ask questions. Okay. I really appreciate you guys hopping on. Okay. So I'm going to be diving into a really important topic that's affecting over 93% of us. It's called insulin resistance. And perhaps you might have heard this. Hey, Miji. So we're going to dive into this, right? And you might not realize it, but insulin resistance is the root cause of so many chronic health conditions like PCOS, infertility, okay, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, right? There's a lot of people with dealing with diabetes, okay, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because there's a lot of things, okay. And so understanding this and working to reverse it can help to address a lot of these issues that we usually treat separately. Okay. So let's unpack it together. Okay. Now, my question, have you heard of insulin resistance before? Okay. If you have, would you mind typing the number 1 in the chat if you have heard of insulin resistance, if you know what it is? Okay. If you've ever struggled with fatigue, okay, how many of you are tired, especially after eating a meal? Joy, Michi, thank you. Okay. How many of you have struggled with fatigue, with weight gain, with skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema? How many of you are hungry all the time, especially late at night, right? This is typically when we're craving foods and salty foods, sugary foods, okay? Stick around because this could be the root cause of the health issues that you are dealing with. And let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced any of these, okay? Just type a 1 if this sounds familiar. And to be honest with you, I'd love to hear from you, okay? So thank you for being on tonight, okay? Now, some of the symptoms, I've just mentioned, but quite often people experience fatigue, especially after eating a meal. Or how many of you are craving sugar, snacks, right? Especially throughout the day. I think one of the most important things is how many of you struggle to lose weight, right? How many of you feel like you're doing everything right and you just keep taking 2 steps backwards? And the reason for this, your leptin, okay? That's the hormone that tells you that you're full. It's not working properly, okay? The other reason is that your insulin levels remain high. Think about skin tags and psoriasis and eczema and adult acne, right? All of these things are caused by one thing. What about anxiety, depression? Okay. What about difficulty controlling your blood sugar levels? Okay. Indeed, Lady Harriet, thank you for the follow. And Dee Dee, let me know if you have any questions. Okay. What about the visceral fat or the stubborn belly fat, right? That we have, the love handles. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but some of these I've experienced and struggled with probably most of my life. Okay. I'm 47 years old now. And some of you know my story, some of you don't. But back in November of 2014, I donated one of my kidneys to my sister's husband. And I'm super grateful for that day. Okay. But every year I was required to go and get my labs done. And it was 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And my nephrologist said, Troy, if you don't lose weight, if you don't change your diet, you're going to end up on dialysis. And so my doctor had given me medications. In fact, one of them is right here. It's called Ozempic, right? Some of you might even be on this. I got on it for 2.5 months. It did absolutely nothing for me. It actually made me sick. And I apologize for the noise back here. Yeah. Carly, you know better. Come here. Come here. Come on. I have a kitten that is such a troublemaker. Okay. But when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease, my doctor had given me medication. It didn't work. And I would imagine some of you that are watching this live right now might be on metformin, you might be on statins, you might be on a lot of different things. And maybe you feel like it's helping to manage your situation. Okay. Maybe it's helping to manage your health. Folks, I want you guys to understand our bodies are pretty powerful. Okay. And our body has the ability to improve insulin sensitivity naturally, right? And I think it all comes down to whether or not we are giving our body the right tools that we need. And so after being on this for 2.5 months, I literally stopped taking it. And it was almost, look at her. What are you doing? It was, it was almost 2.5 years later when my friend completely reached out to me out of the blue and shared something that if I'm being honest with you, I didn't think it was going to work. I honestly did not think it was going to work. But I knew that I could try it for 90 days. And if it didn't work, I'd get my money back. Talk one-on-one. Thank you. She's, stone biting. She's funny. Her name is Charlie, and she looks cute. Okay. But she, hi, don't be smacking me. Hey, don't be smacking me. She's got some claws though. So I've got to be careful. Yeah, Charlie. So, oh, nice. That's a lot. You got your hands full. But the point I want to make is my friend reached out to me and shared something that I just didn't think was going to work. Okay. I was probably one of the most skeptical people. I had seen my dad be put on a bunch of meds. My mom still is. My dad passed away on Easter Sunday, 2017. I had a brother who was 33 years old, who passed away in January of 2005. And so I think about the people closest to me, right? The people that are in my family, my friends, that unfortunately have passed on from something that could have been prevented. And so when I started to understand what insulin resistance is, and I'm grateful for my friend, right? Sometimes God always puts people in the right places, right? And God will put people in your lives for certain reasons. What that reason is, I don't know. But I don't believe in coincidences, and I don't believe in happenstances. And so my friend reached out and shared something, and I was open to trying it. Okay. This was December of 2023, and it was January of 2025 when I started using a system called the Feel Great system. Okay. And I have it listed right here in the TikTok shop. But I was skeptical. Okay. I used to be a pharmaceutical rep way back in the day. You know, I was going into the Mayo Clinic. I was going into all these doctor's office and hospitals. Okay. And so I was skeptical because I had never heard of insulin resistance before. And there's a reason for that. Okay. Folks, when we go to a doctor, okay, and I want you guys to understand, I am not anti-doctor. I'm not anti-medicine. Okay. I'm not, I'm anti-ignoring the root cause. I think it's important for us to understand why we have these health issues. And most importantly, it's important for us to understand what we can do to improve it. Okay. And the reality, folks, is that when you and I go to a doctor, okay, they typically diagnose and they treat the symptoms. Okay. And if you're okay with that, if you're okay with just managing your symptoms, I just want you to know I'm not your guy. I'm happy to share information with you that will help you to be able to connect the dots. But I don't work with everyone. Okay. I don't work with people who are just looking for a quick fix. The reality is that the medications that you and I are on, they don't fix the root cause. We've got to address the root cause instead of just treating the symptoms. And hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully, as I share information to help you understand what insulin resistance is, I just want to give you a synopsis on what it is. Because when you understand what it is, we can make better decisions. Okay. Now, I was dealing with insulin resistance since I was like 14, 15 years old. Okay. And it wasn't until I realized what the root cause was that I was able to address it. And Kelly Poole, thank you for the follow. Okay. Now, if you've been through something similar, feel free to drop a comment, share your story. Okay. Because it's helpful to connect. Okay. Now, let's talk about insulin. Eddie, thank you for the follow. Okay. I think it's important for us to understand why we have these health issues. But I think it is even more important for you to understand, well, what can we do to fix it, right? Or improve it? So let's talk about insulin. Okay. Insulin's role in our body is this. Insulin is a hormone. Okay. In fact, it is a FAT storing hormone. Okay. And insulin acts like a key. Okay. It is the gatekeeper to our cells. It is what unlocks our cells and allows the glucose from the foods that we've eaten to enter in our cells. Your cells will literally use that for energy. Okay, this is the energy that powers your brain, your organs. Okay, we need this energy. Okay, I want you guys to understand though, there's only 2 stages of life where you actually really want to be insulin resistant, and that's puberty and pregnancy, because these are the 2 stages of our life where it helps us to grow. But folks, outside of that, too much insulin becomes problematic. Okay, it's a big deal. Now, understanding this, okay, every time you and I eat food, okay, this is basic biology, but every time you and I eat food, it causes our blood sugar to go up. When your blood sugar goes up, your pancreas sees this. And what it does is it secretes insulin to bring the glucose back down. That's normal. What's not normal is the fact that you and I eat 2 to 3 meals a day, and we are snacking 2 to 3 to 4 times throughout the day. Think about you, okay? How many meals do you eat throughout the day? How many of us were told to move more and eat less? Right? They call this the calories in, the calories out approach. And I want you guys to understand that that doesn't work. Okay. In fact, there was, the Carnegie Institute of Washington. They did a study back in 1919. And when people reduce their calorie intake, now, why would we do that? Okay. Maybe we're doing that because we're trying to lose weight, right? That's what we've been taught. But what most people don't realize is that when you reduce your calories, you actually reduce your metabolism equal to the amount of calories that you're reducing. But it wasn't just that. People were cold, they were tired, they suffered muscle loss. It's called sarcopenia. Okay. And I want you guys to understand something. Okay. There's a lot of talk about these, these weight loss meds, right? And I want you guys to understand, and you can talk to your medical doctor about this and research this, but for every 10 pounds of weight that you typically lose, about half of that is muscle, bone, and connective tissue. And so when I think about this, right, we're all hopefully trying to improve our health, right? We're almost halfway done with February, which is crazy to think, right? We just made our New Year's resolutions, right? And part of that is probably trying to improve our health, whatever that might look like for you. Okay. Now, how well is your New Year's resolution? Are you still on your goal? Have you fallen off the wagon? Right? Right? I want you guys to understand that, what I love about what I teach is it doesn't require us to be perfect, right? Because there's nobody perfect, right? There's only one man who's ever walked the earth who's perfect. And so the reason why this is so important and why this is such a heavy topic is that more than half of our country, the United States, okay, I live here in Arizona. And if you guys wouldn't mind, drop your location in the chat. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. But more than half of our country is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. And when I'm saying diabetic, I'm referring to type 2 diabetes, right? And think about this. Chronic conditions like obesity. By the way, 3 out of 4 Americans are overweight or obese. It's crazy. Jareen, upstate New York. BK Nash, love it. Texas, love Texas. I have friends in New York. Sure, baby. Texas is wonderful. Thank you for being on. Okay. But think about this. Okay. Cardiovascular disease, autoimmune disorders. Okay. They're skyrocketing. And it's not just physical health, right? Think about infertility. How many women are watching this that have ever experienced or dealt with PCOS, right? It's the leading cause of infertility for women. What about erectile dysfunction or low testosterone? Excuse me. And in regards to low testosterone erectile dysfunction, I'm not talking about older men, right? I'm talking about guys in their 20s that are dealing with this. And Nard, thank you for being on. I know you've been on my lives before, so thank you for hopping back on. Right? Folks, it almost seems as if everybody that I come in contact with is dealing with these health issues. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay? The problem is, far too often, all we are doing is we are often given medications for each of these symptoms, but they don't address the root cause, which we know to be insulin resistance. My goal is to help change that. Okay? And Fat Pat, you're not wrong. Okay? And folks, if you are struggling with health issues like kidney disease, or maybe you've been recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, or if you've been battling it for years. I was talking to a lady earlier this afternoon who has had type 2 diabetes for over 20 years. She's been on medications for most of that time. She's dealt with, 2 different types of the C word that I'm not allowed to say on here that we celebrate in September. And so I just think about the struggles that we all have. And most people are medicated. It's crazy. And folks, your body can improve and heal without the need for meds and diets and crazy exercises. Again, it's important to understand what's causing it so that we can connect the dots. I don't care if you've been struggling with these health issues for a year or 40 years, right? I have a customer who was, on blood pressure medications for over 47 years, longer than I've been alive. And within a very short period of time is no longer on those meds, right? It's crazy to think that it took 47 years to learn how to improve the health. What I'm here to offer is a natural approach to what you might already be doing. But again, at the end of the day, I'm not here to convince anybody to, use the Feel Great system. If you want this, awesome. This is what I've used to help reverse stage 4 kidney disease. I had migraines of 23 years. Okay. And if any of you have ever dealt with migraines or headaches, They're debilitating. They're hard. It's so you can't even focus, right? It's like you have it so bad that you can't even, lay you can't even lay down in the dark. It still hurts. Okay. Let's just talk a little bit about the state of the health here. Okay. 74%, like I mentioned, of American adults are overweight or obese. Nearly 50% of our kids are facing the same issue. We are seeing stats today that were unheard of just a few decades ago. Think about the obesity, right? 120 years ago, there were case reports written on people that happened to be overweight, right? These were the people that happened to be in the circus, right? Diabetes is rampant. Most of the chronic issues that exist today didn't exist 30 years ago. We've got 18% of our teens that are now dealing with something called fatty liver disease. Before 1980, folks, the people that had fatty liver before 1980, these were people who drank alcohol. You guys realize that sugar, fructose, right, and alcohol, they both go directly to your liver. That's actually where it gets broken down. This is what leads to fatty liver. Guys, these were conditions that used to be rare or linked to alcohol abuse. And it's not just physical health, right? Even mental health is taking a hit. Now, why am I saying this? Okay, why am I talking about this? This is what insulin resistance is. When our cells become resistant to insulin's knock at the door, right? Insulin is kind of like an Uber driver. It'll go and it'll pick up the glucose out of our bloodstream and it will deliver it to our cells. And our cells normally would be okay with this, right? Our cells take it in and say, hey, thank you. We'll use this for energy. But the problem is because we eat all day long, we're snacking all the time, we're drinking sugary drinks all the time. Okay. When insulin's trying to carry that glucose to your cells are like, wait a minute. Well, we're still trying to burn off the last amount of, insulin that you brought us. Okay. And so what happens is all of this excess glucose starts to get stored in your body. Too much sugar in your joints leads to arthritis. Too much sugar in your teeth cavities, right? Too much sugar in the brain of a child, ADHD. Okay. There's a pattern here. And the reality, okay, is that insulin resistance happens to be the root cause of so many of the health issues that we face today. From obesity to heart disease to the C word, even autism, believe it or not. Now, part of this is tied to the toxic food system, maybe the environment, the stress that we live in, right? Folks, my goal is to help you to break free from the cycle of sickness and one medication after another. You can take control of your health. And folks, if you have a doctor that is talking to you about insulin resistance, please hold on to that doctor, because the sad reality is that most medical professionals are not addressing it. Now, this right here is the root of most of the health issues that we have today. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. And Janice Sowers, let me know if you have any questions. But right, there's so many different symptoms. Okay, and unfortunately, 93% of us have this. Okay, so I have a friend of mine who lives in Tucson, Arizona. I live in just outside of Phoenix and Mesa. But she used to work as a cardiac rehab director for over a decade, right? She worked at a heart hospital. And she said that during that time, none of her patients who had high blood pressure or high cholesterol, not one of them were able to stop their meds. And this is because the root cause was not being discussed or even treated. It's just a Band-Aid solution. Folks, you can't put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Medication alone doesn't truly help fix the body, right? But there is a tool, and this is exactly why not only do I use the Feel Great system, but this is exactly why I teach it. And folks, I'm here to help you understand what insulin resistance is. Okay, I have a tool. It's clinically proven. Okay, your doctor can actually look this tool up in the PDR. Okay, it's clinically proven and guaranteed to work. And if you're looking for an alternative to what you might be doing or something to do in addition to what you're doing, okay, this is an absolute game changer. And again, continue to work with your medical professional, but your doctor can look this up in the PDR. They can see all of the clinical studies that have been done on it. Okay. At the end of the day, folks, it's important for us to understand what's causing this. Now, this is the standard American diet, right? How many of us, we wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and, right, we're having breakfast or we're having coffee with cream first thing in the morning. Then you have your breakfast. And then you go to work and maybe you have a yogurt parfait or a donut or a muffin. Okay. And then you have lunch. Okay. And then after lunch, an hour or 2 hours later, you're having a snack. And then you have another snack at 4 o'clock, right? You're getting ready to go home at 5. And then you go home and you have dinner at 6. And then maybe you have a dessert after that, maybe at 8 o'clock. And if you're a night owl, so now it's 10 o'clock and you're watching your favorite show and you're craving chips or Taco Bell or something like that, right? Or In-N-Out. How many of us, honestly, realistically, be honest with yourself, how many of you are eating from the time that you wake up to the time you go to bed, right? I used to be a foodie. I'm still a foodie. I love food, okay? But I eat 1 to 2 meals a day. If you've ever wondered why you're tired all the time, maybe you have a hard time losing that extra weight, right? The excess belly fat, okay? There's a reason for it. You have to remember that every time we eat, our blood sugar goes up. And folks, your blood sugar can go up and down like a pogo stick. It goes up and comes down really fast. It is like a rabbit. But insulin, on the other hand, when it goes up, it's like a turtle. It's very slow. And the reality is that by the time the insulin levels start to come down, well, guess what? This is when you're ready for a snack. You're ready to eat lunch or another meal. And so what ultimately ends up happening is that your insulin stays high all day long. You're literally swimming in insulin. It's called hyperinsulinemia. This is what contributes to autoimmune issues and diabetes. And the reality is that insulin resistance, okay, think of it like a fire that is burning out of control in your body. See, that fire can be burning for 10 to 20 years before it actually leads to a diabetes diagnosis. Seriously. This fire can be burning for a long time before your doctor is diagnosing. The symptoms that you experience, it's like the smoke to a fire. And if you only treat the smoke, the fire is going to continue to burn. We need to focus on putting the fire out. That's what I teach. Okay, there's 2 simple things that I teach people: fasting and fiber. And really, the third thing is just making sure that you have the right tools. Now, the tool that I use every single day, and I'll use this till the day I die. Okay, I use this. I will never go a day without using it. I take it everywhere. It's in my car. It's in my backpack. It's in my travel bag. I have it wherever I go. Folks, I was skeptical when my friend reached out to me, but I trusted her. She was a former rocket scientist. I've known her and her husband for 15, 16 years. So I knew, okay, I've known this couple for a long time. She wouldn't just be sharing something if it didn't work. And I knew by trying it that if it didn't work, I knew that I could get my money back. So I had nothing to lose. And for those of you that are thinking about ordering the Feel Great system, it comes with a 90-day money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work, you just get your money back. So how do we manage the excess insulin in our bodies? See, one major contributor to this is our habit of eating multiple meals throughout the day. Okay. How many of you, again, were taught to eat 3 meals a day and a snack 2 to 3 times throughout the day? Or how many of you were told to move more and eat less? right? They call this the calories in, calories out approach, right? We were told to have smaller meals because it keeps your metabolism high, okay? Folks, this routine has become ingrained in our daily routine. It does. But think about this. Very few people that you know are in perfect health. Now, while we might be living longer, it's not just about how long we live. It is about how good we feel as we age. Okay. Blessed and highly favored. Okay. It's a very good question. And everybody works different. Okay. If you're checking your blood work yourself or your doctor's checking it, you're going to notice a difference in your blood work day one. Okay. I noticed the difference in my migraines day one, or at least in the first week. I've noticed the energy levels in day one. Okay. You're going to notice something, but I encourage people to use it for at least 30 to 90 days, because you know that if you try it for 90 days and you don't experience any changes, right? Consistency is key. Okay. And user 702, I eat 1 to 2 meals a day as well. Okay. And by the way, if you're already using something and maybe you're on a bunch of meds, okay, I want you to understand that it is safe, it is simple. Continue to work with your doctor, but there are no contraindications with the system. Okay. It works with your body, not against that. Here's the truth. Okay. Our bodies, your body, is capable of healing itself. But if we don't start making changes now, insulin resistance, right? Your insulin and our health could completely go off of the tracks. Okay. Is this safe? You know what? I want to share a picture, and I hope that I have it on here. I want to share a story. Okay. He's actually one of my partners. In fact, you guys can look him up on TikTok as well. But his name is Health Coach Luis, and I'm going to put a picture in him. Okay. And this will help to answer your question that you just had. Okay. He's okay. Here he is. Okay. So, who is the question? Okay. Debbie. Okay. So this right here. Okay. This is not only a customer of mine, but he's also a partner. Okay. And he's somebody who unfortunately lost his eyesight due to diabetes. Okay. He's currently on dialysis, and he's not only doing fasting, he's lost weight. Like, he is absolutely completely started to change his health. I wish that he could have learned this even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Who's to say that things wouldn't have improved? Okay. And he's a partner, and this has worked so well for him. Okay. Health Coach Luis. He's incredible. He's got an incredible story. Okay. Neuropathy. Okay. Neuropathy is a symptom of insulin resistance. There's a lot of symptoms, folks. The point is that when you address the root cause, everything changes. When you control insulin, everything starts to change. Okay. So think about this. Pay attention to what our body is telling us. It's no different than if you and I are driving our car down the road and the check engine light comes on, right? Right? Our vehicles tell us something that's wrong or off. Okay? And we can either put the blinders on and ignore it, or we can address it. But we know what happens when we ignore it, right? Things could get worse. Now, the first thing that I teach people and encourage people is to fast, time-based eating. We're not talking about fasting for weeks or days, right? Although if you fasted for 72 hours, your body actually rejuvenates your immune system. It resets. It's crazy. But when we go longer periods of time without eating, what happens is our body avoids the glucose spike. And when you and I avoid the glucose spike, it also means that your body doesn't have to release any insulin, doesn't have to rise. Okay? Every time you and I eat food, especially sugar and especially carbs, it causes your blood sugar to rise. This is what triggers insulin to move glucose into your cells for energy. But remember, often our cells become resistant to insulin. And so that extra glucose gets dumped somewhere, right? It gets stored in places like your liver. So it contributes to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It contributes to the increased belly FAT. So what do we do about it? Okay. The key is managing insulin resistance, okay, through better eating habits, maybe incorporating fasting. And if you're new to fasting, I always tell people start out with 12 to 13 hours. Utilize your sleep time as part of your fast, okay? So being mindful of the choices that we make today, right? Because, the choices that we make, unfortunately, can impact our health. I have a friend last year that passed away. She was 42 years old and she passed away from a heart attack. And you might be asking, well, how does insulin resistance have anything to do with this? It has a lot to do with it. Folks, insulin resistance is the cause of more than 90% of the chronic issues that we have today. And far too often, all we are doing is just throwing medications at them, okay? Folks, do you guys realize that the United States consumes 70% of all the medication in the world? And yet we are one of the sickest countries. We spend more money on research. And yet we're building more hospitals. We're building more dialysis centers, more infusion centers. Guys, do you feel like what you're doing today is helping to manage or fix your issue? And I think the majority of you would say you feel managed, right? Because that's essentially what it's doing. Carrie, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. So I love fasting. I eat, like today, I had one meal. That was it. Okay, intermittent fasting is one of the quickest ways to regulate your insulin levels. It's the quickest way to get it under control. Folks, if you are not in control of your insulin, you are not in control of your health. And the idea is super simple. And Colette Maria, 1966, thank you for the follow. Okay, like I said, if you're new to fasting, do 12 to 13 hours or 13 to 14, right? Use your sleep time as part of your fast. But what you want to do is you want to gradually increase this to 16 to 18 hours. There's a sweet thing that happens at around 17 hours, okay, when you fasted for that long. Thank you, Colette. 17 hours, it's called autophagy. And if you've never heard of autophagy is kind of like buying a house and you're renovating it. Okay, when your body renovates yourself, right, your body's getting rid of old, dead, tired, unhealthy cells. And what it does is it replenishes it with brand new cells. It's incredible, right? Our body is so powerful, right? Our body understands and knows what it needs to do to start improving its health, okay? So when you do decide to break your fast, okay, here's what I would encourage you to do. Eat in this order. If you can switch up the order in which you eat to this, it's going to make the biggest difference in your blood sugar levels and your insulin. Have fiber first, okay? That's step one is fasting. Step two is fiber, but you want to have fiber first. Have it with your meal or before your meal. But when you have fiber, okay, there's a lot of benefits to fiber. And the reality is that you and I are getting less than half of what we need every single day. Not anymore, right? This is what Rexall drugs created back in the late 80s, early 90s, but this is what I use, okay? I still eat a salad. I eat vegetables. I love Brussels sprouts. I didn't like it as a kid, but I love broccoli, okay? Flax, chia seeds, avocados, artichokes. These are some good sources of fiber. So most people don't get enough, so aim to get this with every meal. Because when you have fiber, and when you have the right type of fiber, right? What I love about this is a blend of 7 soluble and insoluble fibers. So what happens is it's like soluble and insoluble comes together and it creates a barrier. Okay, you can't see my eyes. Okay, it's preventing and helping to reduce the glucose spike and the insulin spike from the foods that we eat. So whether you're having a salad or pizza, it's going to help prevent that. Okay. Fiber is what helps to slow the sugar absorption, which prevents large glucose spikes and reduces your body's need for insulin. This is key. And when you combine fiber with fasting, it's an absolute game changer for improving insulin sensitivity, because that's the goal here. Okay. Now, the hardest part is sticking with it, right? Because it's very easy to fall off the tracks. But even little small wins, okay, are going to help you to motivate. And this is one of the reasons why I use and I help people to understand the Feel Great system. And if you're curious about it, it's right here in the TikTok shop, okay? And I had it on here. Let me hold on a second here. Why isn't it on here? That's interesting. Sorry, I thought it's not going to let me put that in there. But this is why I use the Feel Great system, and I help people to utilize that. Because at the end of the day, folks, you have a right to understand what you need to do to improve your health. Okay. You don't have to rely on meds or diets for the rest of your life. Continue to work with your doctor. Your doctor can even look up the Feel Great system in the PDR. Okay. Folks, I've been using this for over 2 years. Okay. Nard says if you follow the protocol, it will get easy. You will feel the difference. And that's the thing, is it helps you to fast. It makes it easier. Okay. How many of you have ever tried fasting, but it's really hard, right? You can only go a certain amount of time. And then when you do eat, it's like you're binge eating. Okay. This system, by the way, that I use, okay, has been around for over 30 years. It has been studied by more than 24 world-renowned institutions like BYU, Provo, Utah. It's been studied by the #1 heart hospital in the world, the Cleveland Clinic, the University of Sydney in Australia. By the way, they're the ones that came up with the glycemic index. Okay, they are the blood sugar experts of the world. It's been studied by Stanford, UCLA, UNLV, and I want to recommend a couple books. Okay, a few books. Okay, this one is called Metabolical by Dr. Robert Lustig. Okay, this doctor happens to be a nutrition genius. Okay, he is super smart. Let me flip this so you guys can see this. But he is a nutrition genius. Okay, the other one is Dr. Mindy Pell's Fast Like a Girl. Okay, and she talks about the power of fasting and how it enables your body to switch fuel sources, right? Instead of burning sugar for fuel, now it's starting to tap into your stored FAT. Okay, this is a great way for you to lose weight. Now, Dr. Benjamin Bickman, he's a professor at BYU. He's the leading scientist in the world when it comes to insulin resistance. Okay, and he actually calls it the silent epidemic. Okay, but folks, at the end of the day, okay, most of us are on medications, whether it's statins for cholesterol, whether it's metformin for diabetes, or whether you're on these injections to lose weight. Folks, what I love about the Feel Great system is it works with your body, not against it. Okay, and if you're curious as to whether or not it's going to affect what you might already be doing, I would, again, work with your doctor. Your doctor can look up the information in the physician's desk reference. Here's how simple the system is, okay? And I've got just a few more minutes and I'm going to hop off, okay? I'll be back on early tomorrow morning. But this is how simple the system is. When I wake up in the morning, instead of having breakfast, I mix this with about 20 to 30 ounces of water, okay? And what I do is I just sip on it all morning. When I'm sipping on this, it shuts the food noise off. It decreases my cravings for sugar, for salt, for carbs, for all of that, okay? It helps to improve my energy levels. The brain fog goes away. And Carl, absolutely. I would have the fiber, and I would have a salad right after it, right? Absolutely. And even if you didn't have the salad, fiber's great. I have the fiber before every single meal that I have. So if I have 1 to 2 meals, I'm having 2 fibers. If I'm only eating 1 meal a day, I'm going to have 1 fiber. But there are days that I actually have done an extended fast, And even though I'm not having dinner, I'm still going to have this fiber. And I'm still going to sip on this throughout the day, because the great thing is it doesn't break your fast. Okay, so if you're really trying to push and allow your body to start healing from the inside out, fasting is key. Okay, this doesn't break your fast. So I wake up in the morning, sip on this in the morning. Okay, if I get to lunchtime and I'm hungry, I'm going to have lunch. Okay, if you're hungry, eat. Okay, and then I'm going to make my second one of these and I'm going to sip on it all afternoon. Okay, what it's going to do is it's going to help to decrease or reduce or eliminate the glucose spikes from the foods that you've had. It helps to manage that. Okay, so I sip on this all afternoon, but it also helps me to maybe shut the food noise off, right? So I'm not craving snacks in the afternoon. And then before my biggest meal, folks, this blend of fiber that was created by Rexall Drugs, it is called the Feel Great System. It's listed here. Okay, it has literally changed my life and many others. Okay, and let me share this. Okay, let me see if I can put this in here. This is a buddy of mine. I showed you my one of my business partners now, who is a customer for a long time, by the way. But he, right? It's crazy to think that he's on dialysis and he's using the system. Okay, but Jimmy here, my buddy. Okay, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, right? Type 2 diabetes, okay, blood pressure, sleep apnea, depression, all of these things, by the way, are caused by insulin resistance. Some of you might not know that. See, insulin resistance isn't just your diabetes, right? It's not just your weight. It's your migraines, it's your neuropathy, it's your IBS, it's your gout, it's your GERD, it's lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, right? It's all of these things that, again, far too often all we're doing is putting ourselves on meds, right? When it comes to managing blood pressure and A1C levels, right? The Feel Great system can actually help you to get back on track. That's the key. Okay. So this is my buddy Jimmy. Let me show you Claudia. Okay. Claudia was a type 2 diabetic for 23 years. It's incredible how long she had this. Okay. She was taking metformin. Look at this. Her A1C went from 10 to 5. It's completely transformed her life. And for those of you that are looking at this and you're thinking, do I want this? Is it worth it? Folks, again, it comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If it doesn't work, just get your money back. Okay? Let me show you a text message. And I have a bunch of these, by the way. Okay? Look at this one. She had lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes. But this is a text message that I received from one of my customers, and this is pretty awesome, right? He's down 81.5 pounds. He had IBS, gout, vertigo, depression, all gone. Okay, just take a second to read this, and folks, if there's somebody that you know that is struggling with their health, feel free to share this with them. Folks, I really hope and pray that what I shared helps you to avoid the same mistakes that I made. I wish that I knew about the system 20 years ago. I think there's a chance that my dad would still be here, my brother would still be here. I have an 85-year-old mom who lives in a memory care facility in Tennessee. She's on a lot of medication. She's got Alzheimer's and dementia, which, by the way, if that runs in your family, pay attention to that one, because I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. Folks, if you're on meds and you're tired of it, and if you're looking for a natural way to maybe improve your health, you've come to the right life. Okay. Are there any questions on what I've shared so far? Okay. When I started this back in January of 2024, I didn't expect it to make such a big difference, especially in the short amount of time that it happened. Right? 32 pounds gone, brain fog. I had migraines literally for 23 years. I was in a bicycle accident in Omaha, Nebraska back in 2000. And so for the last 23 years, up until a couple years ago, right, that I had these migraines for the longest time. What I love about this is that there's no contraindications, there's no side effects. Okay. It's, I actually probably exercise less now than when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. This system will give you small wins. It'll help to build your energy. It'll help you to improve metabolically. You'll start to notice differences, right? And Shelly, thank you for the follow. Donna, thank you. Making sure that I'm not missing anyone. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but thank you to everyone who has hit the follow button. Thank you to those that have shared this with people. Thank you for tapping the screen. Every time you do that, okay, you're sharing this with people that need this. Okay. Okay. User 702, that's a lot of stuff, right? And unfortunately, those things are caused by insulin resistance. Folks, at the end of the day, you can improve your insulin sensitivity. You can reverse these symptoms, okay? Retired for good, like your handle. Yes, when I went back to my nephrologist after being on this for 5 months, my kidney doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. I'll never stop taking this. And I will share it with anyone and everyone who's willing to listen. Folks, the best part about this is that you can try it. And if it doesn't work, you get your money back. There's zero risk. It's made from plants and food. It is safe. You can see all of the clinical studies. Your doctor can see all of the clinical studies. Okay. So, and if you're skeptical, we should be skeptical, right? There's a lot of things out there. How do you know if it works or not? Okay. But when I went back to my kidney doctor, he just said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Okay. Let me see here. Any other questions? Thank you so much, honestly, for hopping on. I appreciate that. Retired for good. It's crazy that we can't even say that word on this platform. It's crazy, but God bless you guys.